I want to welcome you to another masterclass of It's So Much More, because optimal wellness is more than just physical wellness. It's so much more. So we are continuing tonight the Secrets of Metabolic Mastery series. And tonight specifically, we are talking about eating for energy and how to sustain and balance energy levels from sunrise to sunset. And so, just like with everything that we talk about, we are looking at the 4 pillars of optimal wellness, right? So we're looking at balancing cellular fuel delivery and lifting metabolic and immune function and clarifying toxic buildup and stabilizing the endocrine function and our glandular function. And then also we're looking to calm our daily stresses and restore nutritional energy. And when we put all this together, this is really the 4 pillars of optimal wellness actually align with the 4 categories in Solle Naturals as well. So it's a brilliant design on the Solle Naturals formulas that it really aligns together. But specifically tonight, when we talk about eating for energy, this really kind of falls into this category right here, right? It's going to fall into the balancing of the cellular fuel delivery, because energy is so connected to blood sugar. And so we're going to go into that tonight. Eating for energy, how to sustain and balance energy levels from sunrise to sunset. So first things first, let's look at the blood sugar roller coaster. And this is really, really key because, you know, it might be fun going on an actual roller coaster, right? That takes you to steep highs and then plunging lows, right? It gives you a rush. But when sugar levels in the body are not in balance, it can actually be a very exhausting ride, right? And this is oftentimes when you see people will use coffee, they'll use caffeinated beverages, they'll use sugary snacks to increase their energy levels. And while sometimes that may make you feel good for a short time, it doesn't actually, you know, it's not actually good for the body, right? And so the subsequent low can actually be quite depressing, right? And what happens is these constantly highs and lows actually keep you from functioning at your best. And it can be wreaking havoc on your health. And it really affects a lot of things. So what we want to do is we have to stabilize the blood sugar. And so this is really, really important because it's not just about being low blood sugar, right? Like we don't want to be too low. So like if you skip a meal or you restrict calories too much, or you go on like no carbs at all, right? Where you're just not eating any vegetables or grains or starches or anything like that. You can drop your blood sugar too low. If you exercise on an empty stomach and you don't have enough fuel, like minerals and things like that in your body, this can also happen. It can really, really, really drop your blood sugar really low. And so when your blood sugar drops, what happens is your body burns muscle and holds on to fat. Your energy will crash and your cravings will increase. And so that's really, really important, because I speak to a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't eat any carbs at all, right? Like they're like not even really eating any vegetables. And I'm like, well, you know, although that sounds like it might be a good plan, sometimes it's not, because it's actually dropping your blood sugar too low and it's forcing your body to hold on to fat and burn muscle instead. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, though, if you have too many carbs per meal or too many calories, or you're eating too much sugar, or you're eating too frequently, right? The blood sugar stays spiked and the body will store fat. So ideally, we really want to be in this kind of middle ground right here where we have that stable blood sugar, right? And this is when the body will release fat easily. The body will maintain and protect our lean muscle. Also, we won't have cravings, and we will sustain the maximum amount of energy possible in our body. Now, what's important about this is because you have to understand that the brain is always at work, right? And it requires tons of energy to function. And when we're in stress, like, we live in this really chronically stressed, environment, and this, chronically stressed world that we live in, when we're in stress, our brain actually uses more fuel, right? And so our prime source of fuel for the brain is actually glucose, right? So in order for our brain to think, in order for us to focus on things, in order for us to do anything, like our brain is constantly working, it requires fuel, right? And so one of the prime fuel sources is glucose. And so whenever we have this unstable blood sugar, not only is it causing us to have like fatigue and whatnot, but the reason why we're having that is because our brain is number one. So the body is going to protect the brain, right? And so when our blood sugar drops, it gives as much of it as it can to the brain, and then it takes away from everything else. But even then, it doesn't have enough to give to the brain. And I always tell people, like, I tend to be a little bit of an overthinker. So I like to think that my brain uses probably even more fuel than other people's, because my brain is constantly thinking. And just understand that every time your brain thinks, it's using fuel to do its work. So we got to feed our brains really, really well. So in thinking of that, what are some of the changes that happen in our body whenever we have these blood sugar changes? Like, what happens to us? Well, we can have weight gain, right? Especially around the belly, right? So that weight gain right in the belly region, and I've heard people call it like beer bellies or things like that, or like I've even heard like mom bellies, which I think is quite silly in my opinion. But anyways, that belly fat that's just right there, and it's kind of stubborn fat, it like doesn't want to go away. That belly fat is generally connected to blood sugar and cortisol and stress in the body. Fatigue is a huge one, right? Brain fog, nerve damage, hormonal imbalance, neurotransmitter dysfunction. Again, these all have to do with the brain not being able to have enough fuel to really kind of make everything work, right? Cravings, right? And the reason is because when your body's not getting the fuel, or when it thinks it's not getting the fuel, and you're on this blood sugar roller coaster, it's going to cause you to crave foods so that you will give it the fuel it needs, right? Leaky gut, fatty liver. This is a really, really big one, because when you have high blood sugars, or you're eating a lot of carbs and you have a lot of sugar in the body, this is actually stored in the liver. And once you get a certain amount of it in there, it will start to convert it into fat. And it doesn't just, it stores it in the liver itself, it also stores it all over the body. Depression and anxiety are key factors to this blood sugar roller coaster. And kidney challenges. And when I say specifically, let's go back to depression and anxiety for a minute. A lot of times these will be together, right? And so when we have those blood sugar spikes and we're going up and down, you'll have like a lot of anxiety when your blood sugar is high, and you're kind of having that anxiety feeling, anxious feelings. And then when your blood sugar is low, you have like more of these depressive feelings and things like that. So blood sugar is definitely connected to depression and anxiety as well, especially kidney challenges as well. So this is really important to look at. So how do we fix this, right? Like, so specifically tonight's topic is eating for energy. Like, what food should I eat to balance and sustain my blood sugar all day? And so the first thing that we're going to start with, the number one, is healthy fats. Now, I get people all the time that are like, Erica, is it really safe to eat like a lot of fats? And I'm going to tell you, yes, as long as they're healthy fats, right? Because your brain is comprised of 60% fat, right? And we rely on sugar for energy, but this basically is depriving our body of exactly what it is made of. So whenever we want to get off of this blood sugar roller coaster, add a lot more fat into your diet, right? Because fat is the longest lasting source of energy for you and for your brain. So even though I said a primary fuel source for the brain is glucose, like that's the glucose, another fuel source for the brain is fat. So you want to get a lot of good, healthy fats in your body. And here's the thing, as a baby, right? Like we come into this world and we rely on fat. Breast milk is high in fat naturally. And for optimal brain development, you want to have a lot of good fats. Matter of fact, nutrition recommendations for breastfeeding mothers is never to reduce any fat. Like you don't want to reduce fats in the diet of a breastfeeding mom. You want to increase fat as much as possible. And babies need that fat in the breast milk or for optimal brain development and energy. And so when you're looking for these healthy fats, some of the best sources are, of course, coconut oil. You can get it from, wild caught salmon and avocados. I love avocados. I have anywhere from a half to a whole avocado every single day. It's probably my favorite food source of fat. And then of course, you have your omega-3 fatty acids in supplement form. And then you can also get healthy fats in supplement form. And of course, my favorite is Infatuate. And I add that into my diet every single day because I feel like I'm probably not really eating enough healthy fats in my diet in general, like as far as food goes. So supplementing in more healthy fats is always good for me. And I will tell you, I can always tell when I'm not getting enough because my skin will feel a lot more dry. My brain doesn't feel quite as, really sharp and on. And so I know when I am not getting enough healthy fats in my diet. So healthy fats. Also, I'll get more cravings. So if you are trying to reduce in weight, and you're finding like sometimes you're getting cravings, check how many fats you're eating because that's a really big one. Next thing, what are we eating? Protein, right? Now, we always think about it like protein helps to slow the absorption of sugar into your bloodstream, right? So anytime that you're eating something that has a higher amount of sugar in it, you want to go ahead and add protein in with it so you can keep your blood sugar balanced. But what's important about protein, there's two things. First of all, you want to have really great clean sources, wild caught fish, grass-fed beef. If you can't get clean, like you can't find grass-fed beef or it's just not accessible for you, you want to get lean, right? So if it's not clean, you want to get lean. And the reason is because the chemicals, hormones, and toxins that they pump our food with are stored in the animal's fat. So if you're eating animal, then if you're not eating organic or clean or whatever, then you want to really consider getting as lean as possible because, like I said, it's stored in the animal fat there. And so the thing about it is, even though protein is great for balancing blood sugar, like if you're going to eat carbs, you want to go and have proteins with it. You don't want to get too much protein. And because high protein intake will actually cause your body to convert the excess protein that you're eating into sugar, right? And this in the body is called glucogenesis. And it happens naturally. And basically what it is the body stores the protein. It doesn't store the protein as proteins, right? It all of the protein gets broken down, and the stuff that it doesn't use, then it will convert into sugar, and then the sugar that it doesn't use will eventually get converted into fat for the body to store. So ideally, for the average person, I get asked a lot, you want to shoot for about 40 to 70 grams of protein per day. Although you don't have to necessarily count your protein grams. It's just that like you want to have a source of protein in every single meal, right? So if you're eating 3 meals a day, you want to have protein source in every single meal. If you're only eating 2, you know, however your plan is, you want to go ahead and have a protein source in every meal. And so there are animal source proteins, and then there's also plant source proteins, and there's tons of protein available in plant source. So you have, you know, nuts and seeds and beans, and you have a variety of vegetables that have really, really high amounts of protein in them. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're eating animal product in all the meals. You can definitely find plenty of protein in plants as well. And so where do we go next? Leafy greens, right? And so this one is really, really, really key, because since starchy vegetables are typically loaded with a higher amount of carbohydrates, and those things are easily broken down into glucose in the body, it's important for us to look at the non-starchy vegetables. So of course, our leafy greens are the top when we look at these things. Spinach, kale, Swiss chard, you know, any of your grasses and things like that. All of these low carb greens, they've actually been shown to lower the risk of type 2 diabetes. They provide your body with a ton of B vitamins. They, especially like your B9. But what this helps with is you're getting the ability for your body to detox better, right? So the more leafy greens that you consume, the better optimized your body is for detoxing. And this is why it's key, because we're talking about metabolic mastery, right? We're talking about releasing the things that no longer serve us. So whether that's weight or emotions or traumas or whatever the things are, where we're optimizing our metabolism and releasing the things that no longer serve us, we have to process those things out of the body. And so one of the big key driving factors for that is our detox pathways, right? And so we want to make sure we have these detox pathways open up. So I really recommend you have leafy greens at every single meal. And I often get people that will ask me, Erica, so you're telling me even at breakfast? Yeah, even at breakfast, I really recommend. And so here's the key: unless you're having a smoothie, so unless you're having a smoothie, make every meal a salad. And I don't mean like have a salad, like eat whatever you're eating on top of your leafy green salad. So like if you want to have pizza, go ahead and eat the pizza, just put your pizza on top of the salad, right? And it's such a key thing. Like just go ahead and make your plate of greens, and then whatever you're eating that day, whether it's a steak, pizza, tacos, whatever it is, just throw it on top of your bed of leafy greens and you're good to go, right? So just, you want to make sure you're getting tons of leafy greens in your diet. Now, here's the next one: spices. Now, I think that this is a hugely overlooked category, but this is huge, because spices have been shown to help us with balancing and lowering blood sugar since the dawning of time, right? And there's some very, very key spices that really help with this. And so one of those, of course, is cinnamon, right? Cinnamon and the regular consumption of cinnamon lowers blood sugar. Now, that's probably why we have such great results with cinnamate and lowering blood sugar, right? Because of the 3 different types of cinnamon in it, right? Also, turmeric. Turmeric is essential for reducing inflammation, but when we reduce that inflammation, it also helps us to combat insulin resistance. So again, I know you've heard me say time and time and time again, and if you're new here, this will be the first time, but Solle Flex PI with our turmeric in it is so critical in reducing that inflammation. And I always recommend it as a daily. Take it every day because it's so good for you. A big key one for blood sugar is adaptogens. Now, when I was putting this together tonight and I was thinking about the foods that we would really use to help to balance and sustain blood sugar, I couldn't leave adaptogens out, right? And the biggest reason is because blood sugar is so connected to our hormone, specifically our hormone cortisol, right? And so adaptogens have been used for thousands and thousands of years for their medicinal properties and for relieving stress, right? And specifically balancing that hormone cortisol. And the hormone cortisol provides your body with glucose by tapping into your glucose stores from your liver. And this is a really, really important thing because when cortisol rises, your blood sugar rises, like they go together. So when cortisol rises, every time blood sugar rises. And so if your cortisol levels are always high, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where your cortisol levels are always high because you are in a, kind of a chronic stress state, you're going to have increased blood sugar levels naturally. And so one of the biggest things that you can do to maintain your energy and balance your blood sugar is to manage stress and specifically manage the stress hormone cortisol. So incorporating adaptogens into your diet provides the nutritional support your body needs to level out. And so in this category, one of my favorite supplements here is either Adaptable or Vital. And so Vital has a half of a serving of Adaptable in it. It's our mood enabling blend. And I recommend, that as a daily, and especially if you take Vital, it also has tons of minerals in it and all kinds of great things to help your liver and help to detoxify the blood. So many good things. But if you're not a big fan of the drink itself and you decide to take Adaptable instead, you're still getting all of those really great benefits. And of course, at Solle Naturals, they formulate every single product with adaptogens. So you're getting all kinds of adaptogens, but those particular formulas are the most powerful formulas with the most adaptogens in them. So I had to include those. Is it okay to have like an avocado toast, carbs and good fat? I love an avocado toast, honestly. You can have good fat with proteins and with carbs, so you can have good fats throughout the day. Sometimes there is recommendations to not mix your good fats with like a lot of fiber, right? So so if you were taking like a fiber supplement, or if you're taking something with a lot of fiber, that you wouldn't want to mix those together. But traditionally speaking, when we're talking about whole foods, I think it's fine. Avocados naturally have a lot of fiber anyways, and then they're surrounded by fat. And so I always figure that if God made it that way, then it's fine. Yeah, it's good. And so, yeah, you can do carbs with a good fat. You can also do proteins with a good fat. Typically the only things that we want to look at are like really starchy carbs, like grains specifically, and high proteins, because it takes two different enzymes in your digestion to digest those things. And sometimes it's more difficult to get those enzymes working in the body together. Doesn't Vital supply enough greens? So Vital supplies some greens, and it does supply your chlorophyll. So as far as like not having any greens because we're taking Vital, it's not the way I would suggest it. Now, you are getting lots of greens with Vital. And so if you just can't stand, greens at all, like if you're just like not a big fan of lettuce or spinach or kale or any of them, then taking Vital is definitely a step in the right direction. But for me personally, I would still recommend you taking and eating your dark leafy greens, even though you're drinking your Vital every single day. What about AvantGreens? I love AvantGreens, and I love the power of sprouts in general, right? Like, so when you think about sprouts, you're literally talking about the beginning of life, right? Like, and so all the energy is super concentrated and it's right at the beginning. So AvantGreens is definitely a powerful green supplement. And it is definitely a step in the right direction if you add that in. So like if you just hate greens, then adding these things in are good. But I'm not going to not recommend greens if you will eat them, right? So again, like I said, these other types of things supplementing in are really great, and I definitely think they improve. But I'm still gonna be on the side that recommends dark leafy greens on the regular basis, at least once a day, if not, like I said, every single meal. So until next time, until next week, go invite your friends, keep sharing soul. I love you guys. Have a good night.